Oh my god, finally, we got some actual garden subfloor news. We just found out that Seek, yes, Seek, will be in the garden subfloor, and two pieces of very interesting evidence actually support this, including a very recent teaser as well as a never-seen-before leak. Now, as you probably know, the next update coming to Doors will feature an outdoors-themed subfloor called the garden subfloor. And up until now, we don't know what many of the new entities would be. Maybe things like Snare, but other than that, not really any new entities. However, that was until today, where we found out that Seek himself is almost definitely going to be present with some type of chase sequence in the floor, much like how they appear in the hotel and the mines. We have got a lot to cover in this video, so with all of that being said, let's begin. Alright, so let's start with the never-seen-before leak of Seek in the garden subfloor. I was provided this image from a user by the name of Roblox Employee, showcasing a module uploaded by the developers titled Seek Moving Garden. It really doesn't get as clear-cut than that. It quite literally says in its name that this module is for Seek in the garden. Now, when I first was sent this image, I was a little skeptical. I mean, really? Seek in the garden? What does that even mean? But I was provided a link to the actual asset, and it seems to be all legitimate. Now, if you look closely at the image, something quite odd can be found. This module was uploaded in 2022, even before Doors itself was released. So, what gives for this incredibly outdated creation date? Well, although this does hinder the value that this module is actually for a Seek chase in the garden, there is some evidence pointing towards it not being as outdated as it appears to be. For one, the module was updated in 2023. In fact, the time it was updated was a little before the Hotel Plus update was released, and this implies that it was worked on during development for that update. Now, obviously, the garden subfloor wasn't released in the Hotel Plus update, but something relating to it actually was. In the old version of Room 99, players could find a blocked-off door covered in vines, a decoration which, although at the time seemed insignificant, actually hinted towards the location of the entrance to the subfloor. This means that plans for the garden subfloor have existed since the Hotel Plus update, which does actually line up to how the developers stated they planned things years in advance. And these plans now are only coming to fruition. So it's entirely possible that this Garden Seek module was one of the early features for the subfloor, that was held off from being implemented until further development could occur. However, with all of that being said, it's possible the developers' original intentions for Seek have changed since 2023. So, is there any more modern evidence to suggest a garden-themed Seek chase is actually coming? Well, surprisingly, the answer is yes. In fact, the evidence is so modern that as of recording this video, it came out 1 day ago. On this fateful day, the developers posted this series of emojis after someone asked for a teaser for the next update, and these emojis feature a man running through some trees. Now, based on previous leaks, we know the garden subfloor takes place outdoors, where there are a lot of trees. So this could just be hinting at players traveling through an outdoor location in the subfloor. However, it could also be a hint towards a Seek chase being present in the garden subfloor, which was an interpretation that hadn't even come to my mind seeing this teaser until someone actually pointed it out to me. As you are probably well aware, in both the mines and the hotel Seek chases, the player physically runs away from Seek. And given how the emoji the developers used is of a person running, rather than one who is walking, it could signify that we'll be running in the garden subfloor, an event that only occurs when a Seek chase also occurs. This paired up with the old Seek running module for the garden intensely implies that there will be in fact a Seek chase present in the garden subfloor, a feature which I honestly wasn't expecting at all, as I always just assumed that these events were reserved for just the main floors. However, with all of that being said, in the somewhat likely chance one of these chase sequences are present in the subfloor, what would it actually contain? What would be the new features it brings to the table? As you may recall, it appears that with each new chase sequence, more and more mechanics are added to them in order to differentiate them. In the hotel, players just run and crouch. However, in the mines, players must also jump and control a minecart. So, what new things could be added to the garden seek chase? Well, I actually do have one idea that I think is one of the most likely possibilities for what this could be. And that is the mechanic of sliding. As you may know, Ranked Mode introduced the gimmick of sliding, a new action players can perform to gain speed whilst traveling downhill. And the developers have expressed interest in adding this feature to a future chase sequence. So, I think it's at least plausible that this sliding mechanic could reappear in this chase sequence, perhaps if players need to travel quickly down a hill or mountain or something like that. Either way, this is probably one of the most likely of the new potential features, as it's actually already in the game in Ranked Mode. But there are some other ideas I have that I would like to touch up on. Given the set of emojis the developers have provided, one possible new mechanic in this garden seek chase is that players would need to navigate through dense sections of trees. Think of a forest-like room featuring tall trees blocking the main path, so you must weave in between them, otherwise you'll bang your head on one and be caught by Seek. It could reincorporate the mechanic of crouching seen in the Hotel and Mines Seek chases as well, as players may need to crouch under fallen trees in order to progress. Really, a lot of things could be done with trees, and on the topic of plants, I think it could also be possible for snares to spawn during the chase. These are plant-themed entities that will stun players who step on them, and although they are widely believed to be a common encounter in the subfloor, they could appear as an additional threat during the chase. Although, that could lead to some interesting scenarios, such as how due to the generation of snares and how it makes softlock players, this might not be in the game, but hey, it is definitely possible. All in all though, given the evidence we have received, I am quite positive that a new Seek Chase could almost definitely be coming to the garden subfloor, which I am pretty excited to see, as these events are probably one of my favorites in the entire game. Not only is this proven by a module which was leaked, but it is also supported by a teaser given by the developers themselves, so I definitely see this as being a likely occurrence in the subfloor. Who knows, maybe even the sliding mechanic from Ranked Mode as well as dodging trees and snares could be implemented as well. There are a ton of possibilities for what could be in this chase, and I can't wait to see what the developers decide to do. Anyways, with all of that being said, let me know in the comments what you think of this new garden subfloor news involving Seek and all of that, and thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.